get raised no idiot. First was novice intermediate. Expert trying to be a master. Did it for my son and my father. All about cutting them a charger. And I learned how they yearn how I got them.
And we're back. Welcome back to the Not For Lights podcast. We are here in our new refurbished studio, and we're joined with the likes of another royal guest.
Yes,
ladies and gentlemen, I want you guys to just give it up for Mr. BJ Coleman, all the way from the Big Apple.
No, from Los Angeles, actually.
From Los Angeles. I apologize. I apologize. You see, when you have a jet setter guest and he's zipping either in LA, New York, Atlanta.
That's true.
England, you sometimes you can kind of get mistracked. So,
correct.
You're
but
forgiven.
Today we're here, and I just want to introduce our guest properly, because he's not just my friend, but he's a very, very highly connected, productive member of society.
Oh yeah.
I met Mr. BJ Coleman in Louisville, Kentucky, at the Kentucky Derby.
Yes.
Now,
and you look like $1 million. I was like, who is this guy?
Oh yeah. Okay,
Yes.
that's Mike.
you see,
me, Mike, man.
the thing is, he's gonna say I look like $1 million, but he was actually the money man. I walked onto the red carpet, and he was butting shoulders with the likes of Steve Harvey, Vivica A. Fox,
Okay.
Chris
Michelle
Tucker.
Williams from Destiny's Child. I mean, the list was, it was star-studded.
Yeah.
And this guy was just literally snapping his finger, calling shots. And I was like, what does this guy do? And we're going to really get into the nitty-gritty, but just to let you know, this is no small fella. This is a big fish we've got today. So
nice.
I'm going to pass it over to Dr. Jude, because I'm sure he's got a lot more that he wants to start up with. So go ahead.
I mean, I got a lot of questions. First of all, BJ, thanks for joining us.
Dr. Jude, you have such good energy. I just wanted to tell you.
Oh
that.
yeah. Oh bless you, man. Thank you.
I can receive
Thank
it.
you.
Yeah.
That's really nice to hear, considering I've worked like a madman this week. I'm an NHS surgeon, so it's noble work. I work for the people. But so I was doing my research because Mike told us all about you, and I thought, okay, let's jump online and see who this BJ Coleman is. And I went onto your Instagram, and it literally is like a highlight reel of like the Hollywood who's who.
Thanks.
Yeah, and then we jumped on your LinkedIn. My wife and I are checking out your LinkedIn, and like, this dude is connected.
Yes.
I got a lot of questions for you,
I have a lot of answers.
but but before I like complicate it, I want to start right at the beginning. Can you tell us like who you are, what you do, and maybe a little bit about how you got there?
Yeah, sure. I'm BJ Coleman. Professionally, I am head of communications and public relations at Ebony Magazine. But I am a creative marketer, communications executive, and public relations strategist. I studied communications at Boston College. I've had the pleasure of working with a number of individuals and brands, including Naomi Campbell, including Vivica A. Fox, Kim Kardashian, Tyson Beckford. I've worked with Kamora Simmons and Russell Simmons. I was head of communications at Fat Fashions and Baby Fat. I have worked with a number of people and done a number of things.
Wow.
And I am honored to be in my new role at Ebony as we are trying to rebuild it to its heyday in a digital era.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yes.
Now, for those that are probably tuning in and don't understand the magnitude of Ebony, please explain how much of Ebony is important into the culture and the media and what we see today from I wouldn't say the copycats, but the next generation that has followed from their blueprint.
Yeah.
What would you say your role is in today's society?
Well, Ebony is, for more than 75 years, Ebony has been the voice, the reflection, the archive of Black Americans.
Yes.
It is the most influential Black-owned media company in the world. and it continues to represent, celebrate, and highlight Black excellence. And as we are evolving the brand into a new era, we continue to build our community, build our culture, and build our people.
Wow.
Okay, so I'm just gonna jump straight to the gun because you're gonna get to know me. I'll go straight to the point. How can you get me on that magazine?
Well, that's very easy.
Myself, like,
That's very easy. I'm going to call our editor-in-chief, Marielle Bobo, and I'm going to tell her about these 3 amazing Black Brits, and we're going to figure out how to get you guys in there.
Yeah, I shouldn't say just for me, but anyone else that wants to try and get on it. So.
Yes. Well, we had a really great cover last month with Jonathan Majors. Janelle Monáe is on our cover this month. We put on our covers big celebrities, but we cover a wide range of, again, Black excellence, from doctors to athletes to chefs and educators.
Okay.
Since you touched on that cover with Jonathan Majors, I have to kind of bring that back a little bit because that was viral. That post went everywhere.
Yes.
Partly because there was a lot of controversy surrounded around it about the demasculation of men.
Right.
What are your thoughts on that? And was that a strategic cover that you guys did for Ebony?
It was. We wanted to play up February being Valentine's Day, but it's also Black History Month in America. And so we purposefully wanted to create discourse deeper than the traditional Black History Month talk around Martin Luther King or Rosa Parks. But what does it mean to be Black? What does it mean to be Black male? What does it mean to be masculine in this gender fluid, cis society? And we wanted to take the conversations deeper. And that's what we're doing at Ebony. We are not just surface. We are going deep. We are provoking thought. And we are, again, not only recognizing Black excellence, but we're trying to take Black excellence outside of what you see visually, but also inside of what's going on in here.
Amen.
And let me ask you this as well, because I was having a discussion just yesterday with some friends, a friend of mine who works in advertising, about print media and how, and the future of that, and where do you see like Ebony's role as people's attention moves from print media to social media? And how
Ebony,
do you stay relevant?
there's so many outlets now, so many media outlets for you to engage and to get news, particularly in this social media age. But Ebony is, again, about Black excellence. If you want ghetto news, you know where you can go. I'm not going to say any names. If you want entertainment news, you can go there. If you want news specifically on Black business, you can go to Black Enterprise. If you want Black women's news, you can go to Essence. But what Ebony is doing and what we are creating is we are taking the whole picture, the whole community, the whole culture, and we are elevating it. And we acknowledge that our audience is of a certain education level. Our audience is of a certain income, and our audience also understands what it means to be fabulous and what it means to be great.
I love that.
We're not like the rest. We're Ebony Magazine.
And since we are here in London, and from probably your experience as you've been here, the Black community, we make up around 3% of the population. With that being said, we still feel like we are strong within our numbers. We've been impactful. We've been able to make a lot of noise in the space, especially in Britain. How does Ebony reflect more of the stories here in our country?
Well, I think that's part of the reason why I'm here. I am looking to recruit, identify, and recognize Black Brits for Ebony to have a space in Europe. It's not just in Britain where Black people shine. We're all over. I had dinner last night with a model who's from Germany. He's Black. But at the end of the day, even in Hollywood, you think of people like Naomi Aki or Daniel Kaluuya or John Boyega. There's certainly a place for Black Brits to be celebrated, to be recognized.
Yes.
And I would like to think that as we continue to rebuild and grow Ebony, that we will have Ebony Black Brits, we will have Ebony UK. And when we have that, we know that podcasts like Not for Likes is already in our fold.
So can I ask you this, touching on that, because I again have been discussing this recently, like Black Brits, particularly Black male Brits, seem to be doing very well in the US. Yeah, so you got like Idris Elba, Damson Idris, just to name a few, plus the guys you mentioned. And sometimes I think like Damson Idris, for example, he played that iconic role in Snowfall. I don't know if you guys have seen it. I absolutely love that. It's about like the crack cocaine epidemic in the 80s, right? Which is a real cultural story of like California and LA and stuff. But then it was played by a Brit. Like, is there any resentment about this guy who perhaps is
I would say
far removed?
most Americans probably don't even know he's British. His American accent is done very well. He's a phenomenal actor.
Flawless.
You know, I would even argue people may not even know Daniel Kaluuya is British. But no, in America, I like to think that we are all inclusive, and we and being Black American, we celebrate Blacks of all over, and there's a renaissance in our community right now, in this post George Floyd era, where we are proud to be Black. We're back to 1960s. Say it loud. I'm Black and I'm proud.
And I think a lot of that as well, especially with the actors that can play these roles, these American roles, gangster roles, whichever you name it. Part of that is because our identity and our outlook, especially with the cultures and the movies, there's been a lot of representation on television, whether it be music, sports, movie stars. But again, on the flip side of it, you don't really have many Americans playing British roles and telling British stories, just because, again, it's not as heavily, I would say, put out there in the mainstream. So we do a very good job at sounding American, but we can't do, the Americans can't do a great job.
We can't do it, man.
Is that because
when you was trying to give you your British accent?
I know, I can't do it.
Is that because of the accent?
Yes.
I think it's from when we was young. We had BET playing on the television. They didn't have Top Boy stories on television. Now you hear and everyone's like, what's up, man? They're trying to bring in the British lingo, but years ago, when you think about London, you're thinking about the Queen.
And
I think that's the reality.
Queen Latifah.
Yeah,
right.
No
offense.
No, you're right. I remember growing up and visiting the US and meeting people and them genuinely being shocked that I was Black and from London.
Yeah.
You remember that? Like, you should be, they have Black people in London? Yeah, we do.
They love us,
the elitists, the ones that travel and they come over here, like I said, like BJ, you saying, how many times have you traveled to the UK?
Oh, countless times.
Several times. So you would understand, you would know, but maybe your colleagues or your
they may not know. If you had,
have the opportunity.
United States is really, you think of the United States, it's New York and LA. I even say you leave New York, you leave LA, you leave the world. So there are people who might not be as cosmopolitan. Just like when you come here, there might be white people who stare at you because they're not used to seeing Black people who look like you or dress like you or whatever, particularly in different parts of Europe. So America's that same way. And there are certain pockets that are, every culture, every country has those areas where, they are in their bubble and are not unaware of what's going outside of that.
Can I ask you something?
And I just want to say this really quickly, just so you guys know.
Go on.
To answer your question, Dr. Jude, we celebrate all of the Black talent from Britain. Ebony, we had Idris and Sabrina on our cover in January of this year. And we used them as Black British to kind of discuss the global awareness of and impact of the Black community. And we also created on ebony.com an African hub, which highlights, African culture, because a lot of Black Americans right now are trekking to Ghana and going to Nigeria and having that kind of motherland experience. So Ebony has been the place where we have been very aware of trying to utilize celebrity to get more Blacks to know that they can have a hub and they can have a place in Africa. So
but hopefully that's not just a trend as well, because I did notice the whole return, especially I want to say that was 2019, the return. Everyone was going back to Ghana and I think maybe even trying to get citizenships or passports or whatever you can. And it's great because a lot of that, especially Black history, I always say to my friends or my followers online, I was like, use Black history as an opportunity to go back to Africa. That's probably the greatest way that you can give back. And, you know, it's great to a post on Martin Luther King and, you know, the greats that have come before us, but go back home and find out who you are. You know, there's no other lesson that you can learn better than being in your homeland.
And I think that's happening now. I don't think it's a trend. I think this is the beginning of the evolutionary process where Black people of all countries and all continents are recognizing that Africa is not just lions and safaris, but there's its own cosmopolitan culture there as well. And like you said, that's where our roots are. And so I'm hoping that this is the beginning of more people, you know, becoming expatriates or just visiting or learning and growing from that original source and that connection.
And I think that will only benefit Africa, because I think the revenue that's generated from tourism has sustained many countries for years. Africa has not benefited from that.
And think about Black Panther and that influence. That's been very helpful too. Now we just had an event during the Oscars. My friend Tamara Houston, who runs this program called Icon Man, she had the government of Ghana and Nigeria come out to Hollywood to mingle and to network, because they're like, if you guys are doing a Wakanda story, why shoot it on a lot in LA when you can just come to Ghana and actually shoot it? And then, you know, the Ghanaian people get money, get jobs, learn trades. So they are aware that there is a place for Hollywood in Africa and for people in Africa.
What's that other film called? Is it Warrior Queen?
The Woman King.
Woman King. Did you see that?
Viola Davis. I saw you in your selfie with Viola Davis on your Instagram.
Oh, wow.
And actually, I saw a
Viola.
lot of people who we have like almost idolized have become like almost like Black royalty. Who you've clearly had the pleasure of like hanging out with and meeting. I was going to save this question for later, but I might as well just jump in. Jump in. Well, it's kind of two questions actually. But the first is, did you ever get starstruck when you like around these people? Or have you ever been like, oh my God, this is...
All the time.
Yeah?
I mean, that's why I do it. I do it because I love their work. I love the art of filmmaking. I love film. I love fashion. But yes, I mean, I'm very comfortable in who I am, so I feel like I belong in the room with these people. But you know, I still see their work and I still fan out because I'm a fan and I'm successful in what I'm doing because I love what I'm doing, because this is what I always wanted to be. I always wanted to be around actors and designers and models, and yes, I totally get starstruck and I make a fool out of myself sometimes.
Yeah, we're a bit starstruck as well having you here today too. So just don't feel like you're
stop
the
it,
one
Mike.
that's fanning out. But on a serious note, I think I will also kind of go back a bit to the topic when we was kind of speaking about Africa, because obviously I identify as British, Nigerian, and also Jamaican. I'm curious to know, because I know a lot of my friends in America, they identify themselves as just Black American. How do you identify yourself?
As Black American.
As Black American as well.
Yes.
And how do you, is that because of maybe the history of
we can't go back too far. You know, I do know I have some Irish and Italian in my family on my dad's side, so I can kind of go back on my to a certain degree on my white heritage. Even my Native American heritage, I can go back a bit. But in terms of my Black heritage, I can only go back to, you know, like my great-grandparents, really, or my great-great-grandparents. And, you know, I feel like what you guys have a luxury of, you know, being a first or second, third generation here, you can know, oh yeah, my grandmother was Jamaican and she came over, or my grandfather was from Ghana and came over. We don't have that luxury as
Do you
Black
feel like
Americans.
that was taken away from you as being an American? Because especially when anyone that goes to American citizenships, they will tell you that there comes to a part when I feel like you almost have to denounce your previous citizenship or your...
We're not raised like that in America. We are raised to believe that we're American.
Exactly.
And that is our ethnic, that's our, you know...
But that's why I feel like it's taken away from the beauty, the nuance of like understanding your full connection.
No, because it's America. And you can't be Black in America and not know that you're Black. If that makes sense.
I don't understand.
You cannot be Black in America and not know that you're Black.
No, I fully understand. I totally understand that.
I get that question.
You may not know your African roots, but there's a disconnect in the sense that we don't not that we don't feel connected to Africa,
Yeah.
but
No, do you feel like there's a again
Something
now
missing.
a wanting, like there's like a, as every man gets to a point of every man and woman gets to a point in their life when it's like they want to know, you know, their purpose, their identity. You know, there's a great quote. I'm hoping I can remember it. There's a great quote that remembers like there's it's like the two important times in a man's life is when they were born and when they find out why they were born. And you know, I always feel like that has to somewhat connect with finding out who you are in life. So and obviously I love America. My mom's an American citizen. I was raised over there, and I get it. So I'm not attacking. I'm really just curious to whether like, does that take away from the beauty of being a black African American by only going as far back as your American roots? No,
and I don't think it's a black thing. I mean, that's why these like genetics things are so big right now, because everybody kind of wants to know where they come from. But for me, I mean, I can't speak for every black person, but for me, I don't grapple with that. I'm aware that I am black, and I'm aware that my blackness comes from Africa, and I don't need to pinpoint it to feel a connection to it. I know that I stand on the shoulders of slaves, and I am proud of that, and that alone is enough for me.
Wow, great input. Yeah. I love that. See, that's why we have you in, so we can break the ice on that, because it's always been something that I recognize, and I always wonder, you know, is, you know, some of them, sometimes I meet Americans that have just come over and they've done their ancestry.com, and they're like, wow, man, they've got a new wind, a new purpose. And, you know, like I said, again, all of what's happening now, I keep saying, I hope it's not a trend. I hope it's here for, I hope Ebony Magazine is here for another 75 more years. Do you get what I mean? And beyond. Because again, these type of things, they don't need to be brushed under the rug and just swept away. And it's like, okay, it happened, well, we've moved on. Yeah. You know, and I think that's kind of that's a cultural thing at times. It's like, it's happened in the past. Let's move on. Let's remember. Yeah, that's all I want to say. We got a little deep there, didn't we?
No, that's fine. And then also we can go deeper, because really, what is the past? Like, you know, Einstein would argue that time does not even exist, right? Yeah. Whatever is the past is still part of this moment right now. That's true. Correct. So you can't be too disconnected from the past, and you certainly can't know where you're going if you don't know where you've been.
BJ. Okay.
Just saying.
Got more lays to you. Well,
I want to ask you something anyway. So I read that, you know, you started your entertainment career age of 15, correct me if I'm wrong. So I want to ask you, what made you get into what you're doing now? What made you choose that path? Because a lot of 15-year-olds here struggle, like, you know, take the wrong route, knife crime, guns crime, take the wrong path. Yeah. So what advice would you give them? Like, what made you start at 15? Was it different back then, or what made you take the route?
No, because I grew up in Washington, D.C., and it was the murder capital of the world. Okay, and I could have definitely gotten caught up into the wrong crowd. But, you know, when I'm asked that question, all I can say is that I was chosen. I do not know why.
The Matrix.
You know, yes, I was chosen to live the life that I wanted. And I always, you know, I grew up, you know, in the hood of Washington, D.C. I did not grow up with the silver spoon in my mouth, but I knew it from an early age that this is not what I wanted for myself. I knew I wanted to live better. I also loved film, like I said, and I loved music. I loved Whitney Houston. She was my muse, and I wanted to meet her. So I wasn't going to veer too far off path and trying to hang out with Whitney Houston and Michael Jackson. I wanted to meet them. I have since met them, but you know, that my goal was to just I knew I wanted to travel to Europe. I knew I wanted to travel to Africa. I knew I wanted to travel. My family had never done that. I knew I wanted to, you know, I knew that I wanted a life that I was not living. And I was not going to be deterred by external factors or by friends and colleagues who were not inspiring or lifting me up.
Even though you're still surrounded by them? Because, you know, you chose that career because you wanted to. It's good. A lot of kids here like are surrounded by the wrong people. Right. So how could you like give them advice to say, you know what? You say just leave the bad people, work your way a little bit, or just speak to someone.
No, well, you know what's so funny? I was awkward kid anyway, so I was never really socially accepted into any main group.
What do you mean by awkward?
Well, I wasn't black enough for some of my black friends, and I went to a predominantly white school, and I certainly wasn't white enough to hang out with them or wealthy enough to even understand their circles.
When I was younger, they used to call me a coconut.
Yeah.
Yeah, a bounty. Yeah.
In America, they say Oreo.
Oh yeah.
Oh, there we go. There we go. Yeah.
So, and then, I wasn't overly masculine, so I wasn't hanging out with guys and going to play basketball or being invited to go shoot up guns or anything like that. So, for me, it was like I was by myself, and I was able to flourish creatively and to watch movies and to listen to music and allow that to inspire me to go live the life of my dreams.
No, I'm glad you said that, man. You made a good point, because you're making me think now maybe I was the chosen one now. Because in my career, growing up in the hood, shall I say, some people died, some people in prison, some people are still on the roads, whatever it is, and they still say to me like, "Oh, Darren, you're doing so good, blah, 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 blah. How'd you do?" And I said, well, I just chose my path, saying what you just said. And I love the way you said that it's a chosen one, because now I feel like I'm the chosen one. So
because I don't know why. I don't know why or how I don't know why I didn't get caught up. Or I don't know why I was, had it innately to want to graduate from school. Certainly I could have dropped out. Certainly I could have chosen another path. But I say that, God's plans were different for me. I was chosen to elevate my family, to be an example for other black men, to inspire the world, I hope.
And I think, sorry.
I think as well that part of what you said, is what brings us all together here. Like, we're all can clearly look in the mirror and at some point say, no, we was a misfit. I know I'm a misfit. I know Darren probably sees him with Dr. Jude. He only just discovered recently that his creativity is actually his passion and he wants to pursue. And I feel like with yourself as well, you've always, had something different about you. So there's a power in being a misfit. And I've always felt like that was, our
I've never
greatest
been like
advantage is our disadvantage.
Yes, whatever makes you different is your thing. And you have to learn 100%. To embrace that. But some people are so afraid to embrace it because most people are followers.
Absolutely.
And most people don't know how to be uniquely themselves and let that 100%. Shine in their own light. And so people get caught up by following the crowd, following another leader. So and it's easy to do that.
That is the exact meaning of this podcast. And I think that is what unites us here. And so all three of us, or four of us, have had to, at one point, go against the grain and overcome challenge and go away from social acceptance and being liked. Hence not for likes and following our own paths. And I know you said you were chosen, and I think that we all can resonate with that, because I grew up in East London, ended up going to medical school, and we talked a little bit about this before. I've had the pleasure of living and working in the US, in Canada, back home in London, and how did you overcome those challenges? I know you went to school. How did you carve out that career? Like,
again, I started working at 15 on a show on BET called Teen Summit. But I knew at 5 years old, I would be watching the cartoons, and I was like, how are these people in this box? TV back then in the 80s was a box. And I'm like, how are these people in there? I would look in the back of the box and figure out, how did these people get into this box? I wanted to get in the box. So I was at 5, and I just didn't understand the concept of television, but I said to myself, one day I'm gonna get in this box. I gotta figure out how to get in this box. I love that. And so I kind of just kept my eye on that prize, and then as I grew up, as a preteen or whatever, you would learn this television and this cameras, and I was like, okay, well, that's what I'm gonna go after. But my mother was big on education. And I was very smart. And so I was attending public schools, and my teachers were like, oh, he should either skip a grade, or you should consider putting him in private school. And so I went to private school, and that really helped expose me to things that I would not have been exposed to in a DC public school at the time. And again, it was just, even in that school, everyone knew that I had my eyes on Hollywood. As a teenager, they would call me Hollywood. I just knew, and I just moved to LA in 2018, so I'm relatively new to LA, but I've been going back for a long time. But I knew I was going to be in DC and work in politics, or work for the government.
How did you get there though? Because I get it, you wanted it, you had it in your heart, you knew you were going to be different. But how did you get from there to where you are now? Like, what was the break? Or
I just stayed the course. There is no break. It's like the break is not giving up. And absolutely. The break is just being persistent, being consistent, and believing in yourself. Love that. I thought I was going to be an on-air anchor and be a talk show host, but that didn't happen for me. So when I went to college, I studied communications, and I said, oh, well, if I don't become news anchor or a talk show host. I can be an agent or a publicist.
And that brings me to my next question.
Yes.
And because I didn't want you to get there before I
Okay.
arrived, because it's a very important thing. And I think, we've spoken a lot about the Ebony, but I also do want to give you flowers, for what you've been able to create on your own. Before Ebony, you started your very own communication consultancy agency, Image Elevator.
Yes.
Can you tell us a little bit about that and how that started and where it is now? And
Yes.
because we've had some conversations.
Yes. So after college, I started working with Russell and Kimora Simmons, and I had the chance to be her assistant, and it was amazing. And I started working in fashion.
Yes.
And then I did not go to college for 4 years to be someone's assistant. Yeah. And I ended up leaving, and that's how I started working with Naomi Campbell, who had a PR firm. I actually applied to William Morris agency program, because again, I was thinking I'd be an agent or a publicist. And the William Morris agency program denied me. So I just kind of manifested, oh my gosh, Naomi Campbell started a PR firm. I would love to get in there. How I got in, someone referred me. I interviewed with Naomi. I went to her home, and I got to work with like Rockaware. I got to work with Dolce & Gabbana. I got to work with Damon Dash, and obviously I was working right under Naomi, and I was smart and I was good. So Naomi would take me to Lenny Kravitz's house in Miami. She'd have me at Azzedine Alaya's showroom in Paris,
crazy.
and we were in St. Bart's. And then being in St. Bart's with Naomi, I ran back into Russell and Kimora, and they're like, "Well, what are you doing?" And I said, "Oh, I'm working with Naomi and doing PR for her firm." And they were like, "Oh, well, Baby Fat's growing. Why don't you come in and head up the PR department at Baby Fat?" Wow. So I started doing that, and Kimora had a reality show, and she knew that I had done television things and that nature. So I was really able to build a department, and we were able to make, Fat Fashion's $1 billion brand at the time. Wow. I left them in 2008. Unfortunately, they folded in 2009, so you figure it out. But after that, I was pow, but no. But after that, I was at an agency, and I got to work with like D Nice. I got to work with Trina. I got to work with Ray J. And I was working for an agency, and I was realizing like I'm bringing in all the business. So these are all my relationships. So I was like, well, I can do this on my own. Yeah. And so I left there in 2009. I was there for about a year, and I started my own agency in 2009 called Image Elevators. Yeah. I got that name because I'm very big on sunglasses. I love sunglasses. I think they are instant image elevators.
I agree.
And then thinking about what we do and what we practice in terms of public relations, communications, and marketing and branding, I said, that's what we do. We elevate our client's image. So I named the company Image Elevators. And I got to work. Vivica Fox was one of my longest running clients, with whom I still work with today. Lovely lady.
I had the opportunity to meet her through you.
Yes, she's just amazing. I got to do some consultation with Whitney Houston. She recognized me as one of her biggest fans in the world. I got to work with her. Wow. And I've worked with government agencies. I did the opening of the Smithsonian National Museum of African American History and Culture in DC, where we had Barack Obama and Oprah Winfrey. So I've been able to work with everyone, and my agency lasted for 13 years prior to coming on to Ebony. I pride myself in being a creative strategist and being a people connector and having the ability, talent, skills, network, and vision to build and create images.
How do I get someone like you on board? Because I was talking to someone before. I think had a PR before. I say semi, but things went tits up. Corona came, job loss, whatever it is. So I never had someone like that. And everyone keeps saying, you need to get some PR, gets PR.
Yes.
So someone like myself at my level and what I do, MMA, fighting and stuff, how do I get someone like you on board?
You have $5,000, $10,000 a month, and we talk about
God damn, the cost of living's gone up.
It's not cheap.
And and not to mention you're overseas, so we need about $10,000 if you want me on your team a month.
And just
after this, man.
So for that $10,000 a month, somebody hires you. What exactly do you do for them?
Well, it depends on what their goals are and where it is they're trying to go professionally. But most of our strategies, as a publicist, most of my strategies are rooted in building their image in such a way that we create a brand and a lifestyle. Cool, yeah. And I really learned that having working with Russell and Kimora. They were very smart at creating a lifestyle and building brands.
Yeah.
And for me, working for them for 4 years was like me going to grad school.
Yeah.
So I was able to take that, and certainly, you know, as a publicist, you want to get your clients in media, on television, in magazines and things like that. You want to get them at events. So for me, it's about building awareness around what the individual or client is. It's about raising awareness and visibility. It's about getting their image out there and making sure that it's pristine. And it's about building a public narrative that people can buy into. And it's about positioning them as leaders in their field.
At this stage,
stage
in your career, you've been there, done it all, you got the T-shirt. Is there any talents out there in the world that you would just want to work with, that you say, you know, I need that person on my books?
I feel like there are a lot of talents out there that should be saying they need to work with me.
Wow.
That's where we're at now, right?
I couldn't say.
This is why he's the chosen one.
I mean, hello. I mean, I couldn't sit here and say I would love to help someone like Chris Brown, but I can't sit here and say that, you know, that's a big project. You know, you know, and crisis communications is fun, but it can also be a nightmare.
Crisis communications.
Yes, but you know, I would also love to. Rihanna's a friend of mine, but I would love to work with her more. You know, so it just, you know.
Do you feel like as a talent, how much of it is on the talent and how much is it on the publicist? Like, does the publicist get obviously the talent is one that's going to take the blow, but as a publicist, has there ever been a talent that could ruin the reputation of a publicist? Like,
yes. Talent can be liability
as well. Really?
Yes, talent can be liability.
You spot that early as well.
Because you hate that to build up your career and then one talent can just ruin it.
Well, I don't think a talent can ruin. You know. As a publicist, you're good at putting a spin on things. So, you know, if you see a talent as being detrimental or becoming a liability, you let them go. You say, oh, you know what, this is not working this collaboration is not working. So hopefully you would be smart enough, intuitive enough to not even allow them to ruin you. And I know that wouldn't happen to me. And also, you know, it depends on how good you are as a publicist or as a communications person. You know, how do you know, if you're able to build other people's brands and image, you should be able to have your own pristine brand and image.
Fair enough. And
so, go on.
Are you just on like on a small break, hiatus? Can we see? Because I would love to hear that this is not the end of the chapter for.
Oh no, I hate it being an entrepreneur.
You hated it?
Yes. I don't think I'll be going back.
Too much work.
It's too much work in the sense that that's not the work that I want to do. You know, I got to find the office space. If the computers break down, I got to fix the computers. I got to be responsible for going in QuickBooks and paying the staff. I got to pay taxes. I got to pay the office rent.
It's not for everyone.
It is, no. And I was doing more entrepreneurial work than I was doing creative work. And I'm a creative. I like to collaborate. I like to build visions. And I like to be creative. So I'm not trying to be a businessman. I'm a business man, not a businessman. So I'm not trying to be an entrepreneur all day. You ever thought about helping Mike? And not that Mike needs it. No, and you know, Mike told me he's too big for me. That's what he told me. When Mike and I met at the Kentucky Derby, I told you he looked like $1 million. I was like, who is this guy? He came looking like a supermodel. He had on this green double-breasted suit. The women were going wild. And I said, oh my gosh, this guy, and he said he was a track star. He's from Britain. He had this accent. And I said, oh wow, okay, let's exchange information. And then, you know, we befriended each other.
Okay.
And he did a show here in Britain, I want to say. A couple of reality shows.
The MTV.
And then when I saw he was in that reality show, I said, okay, let's use this to leverage. I got a very long chat by phone, 5,000 miles away. And he told me he was going to be too big of a star, and I could not handle him.
See, Mike, there's a lot of truth in there, but there's also a lot of
we need context.
That's not true?
We need context.
No, we did have a conversation.
You didn't say that you were too big for me?
No. BJ has a way of getting straight to the T.
Is that a bad thing, though?
I mean, a lot of the times I wasn't in a position of being. I wanted to work with BJ, but I didn't have the capacity.
Yeah, $10,000 a month.
And I wanted to grow. It's just kind of like you get to that point where it's like, you know, the next level that you're going to acquire, but it's just like, you know, behind any breakthrough is that fear, that doubt.
Yeah.
And that's that kind of like, that burden. Can I take that burden right now? And we was getting ready right before the pandemic.
But see, the problem is that
this is 2019.
He wasn't being this candid with me. He wasn't being this candid. He was telling me, "I'm going to be so big. You better come on board now. You know, you got to do this because we're about to do this. I'm going to be so huge."
But you make your clients that money back, right? So that's an investment.
Of course.
So I mean, 10 bags a month. Let's talk after, man.
Right. Exactly. Yeah. I mean, some people can't see the vision, obviously.
I'm starting to go fund me page, man.
You know, trust me.
Go fund us.
And I feel like we have a great relationship where I can like be honest and be like, listen, because like that's why we were able to have this conversation and sit down today, because there's a great mutual respect I feel between us.
Yes.
Like I said, if there's anyone that's breaking into that realm and they're looking for someone like yourself, I will always recommend you. I'll always put your name in, because like I said, just because it didn't work for me doesn't mean that I wouldn't vouch for anybody else.
And it will work for you. I haven't given up on the possibility of us collaborating. So
still a lot of synergy will be contested.
Of course. You know? I think your future is very bright, and I'm sure that
thank you, brother.
I can assist you when you deem it appropriate.
Thank you.
I love that.
Nice.
So, yeah.
Also,
I'm probably going to be the publicist for Not for Likes podcast one day.
Bang.
Just throwing that out there. We're going to take this over back. You know, we're going to make this huge.
Yeah, man. I see a lot of people working with these like Revolts and all these other big brands, and you know, we're just off our muscle, you know. Yes. And I think a lot of it is because we're passionate about what we're doing. Similar to what you said, we want to be creatives.
I love it.
We don't want to necessarily like I've built my brands before, businesses, and I know what you're talking about. That does come with the territory, and a lot of people can thrive in that. A lot of people can still be themselves, but most people like, we're doing it because we have to do it.
No, of course.
But you know, I think where this lies, like having podcasts, having conversations, sitting down, talking. These is all creative flows. This isn't scripted. You know, this isn't. You know, this is from the heart.
And I would just say this one thing that we're doing at Ebony to move Black forward. That's our tagline, and to move the brand forward is we launched Ebony Studios last year, and we are going to be looking for original podcasts to bring into our fold, and you know, original scripts and series and things of that nature. So as we are going to think about bringing Ebony and having a bigger presence here in Britain, you know, again, I think this is just the beginning of you guys.
Thank you so much.
Of you all's influence, and Ebony's going to back you.
We're honored to have you,
Speak
BJ.
it to existence.
Yeah. I mean, again, as I said, I was going through your Instagram yesterday, and I saw that you've obviously worked with a lot of GOATs.
Yes.
But you also, you know what, I don't know why people do this, but people love to hear stories about, you know, people who are no longer with us. And I saw that you had the pleasure of meeting Kobe.
I did.
Yeah, and I've seen a few people share whatever their kind of interaction with him. And I always, every like YouTube clip or social media clip of Kobe is always just filled with like just extreme wisdom and inspiration. And like, I don't know if he's like that in real life. I'm sure it's like 100 times that, but what was your experience like meeting him?
I met him a month or less than a month before he passed.
Oh my God.
And it was in Crenshaw at a screening for a Michael B. Jordan film. And, you know, I'm not a big sports person, but obviously, you know, you see someone like Kobe Bryant, and, you know, if you can have an opportunity to meet him. I remember his publicist brought him over, and we were chatting for a moment. I was so surprised that he even would talk to me. And then I asked him for a quick selfie, and it came out blurry, and I was so bummed that I didn't have the guts to say, oh, can I get another one? But he was dynamic. He was super nice. I remember him being super cordial and just being engaged, and you know, obviously his talent. You know, there are a lot of talented people in sports. But it takes, you know, personality, and it takes a certain flair to rise above and be the star of a sports team or a sports league. And he was that. I mean, he was the quintessential star, and just a lovely human. That's all. You know, it was a quick moment, but I'll never forget it. And it was certainly one of the pinnacle moments of my life.
Wow, that's amazing.
Yes.
For me, I know what I do is so far removed from sports, but I use.
He was big here.
Yeah, he was huge.
Really?
He was
Kobe
huge.
Bryant?
Yeah.
Oh yeah, mega.
I mean, he's
So, but
huge.
you guys watch American basketball here, or?
Yeah, we do.
yeah,
I
he's starting to break in a bit more.
I used to a lot when I was younger. It's harder now just because of
Because you're a
time.
doctor.
Yeah.
Duh.
Yes, it's harder now. But still, there's certain athletes in various sports whose personal stories I have used for inspiration. Inspiration in my own life, but inspiration because I do a little bit of mentoring and some of us we talk in schools and stuff. And I have used several quotes from Kobe, and his work ethic is just phenomenal.
Agree.
And so I have a mantra which we've talked about before, and that is we said it before. I love this saying. I should get it framed, but whatsoever a man thinketh, so is he. And to me, that basically means whatever it is that you obsess about, that's what you can become. There's nobody who can tell you, like, you can't be whatever it is that you want deep in your heart. And Kobe kind of embodied that. And so for me, I love hearing any stories, even if it's just a brief encounter of that guy, because he's,
I'm so happy to hear that because I'm going to tell you, and this is another plug for Ebony, but Ebony Studios, I told you we launched last year, but our first project is coming up. It's a documentary called Sincerely LA, where we take a look at the murals that popped up around Los Angeles after he passed away, and the impact those murals provided in bringing the communities together. Yes. And that's more so a power of him than it is the artist or the mural. Yeah. And so it's funny that you said that because he's the first subject of our first documentary coming up. But
definitely.
He was definitely a profound person.
I got a random question because as you get to know him, I'm very random.
That's
I'll
okay.
just go off what you lot are talking about, yeah. But I read that you're a veteran of pop culture and you've done a lot of like commentating for such as like MTV, Bravo, BET. I get told that I should get into that after my career because I did when I was at the high level. I did a bit of commentary for like certain shows, but you're not at that level no more. People don't like you no more. They don't call you back and stuff like that. But I do little funny things like on Instagram and shows come up. I do commentary and that. Everyone's like, "Oh, Darren, you should get the commentary and that." How did you get into that side of things? I know it's a bit off the topic, but I just want to know.
No, because I was in Teen Summit when I was 15, and I thought that I was going to be a TV anchor. And then living and working in New York, I didn't know how I was going to actually get back on television. But again, it's VH1 called me, and they had this series called The Fabulous Life of.
Oh, yeah.
And then I was just a regular on that. They would call me for one episode, and they called me for another episode. And then MTV would call me to do Made. Or then BET would call me to say, "Oh, we're doing a BET Awards countdown. Would you be a part of it?" People just called me. I don't have an agent. Again, it's just the universe rising to meet my wants and me being a manifester and putting it out there. Wow. I don't have an agent. I don't have anyone helping me. I mean, I obviously have some great friends, and I certainly I try to use my network to let people know what I want.
It's about who you know as well.
And it's also just about putting it out there. If that's what you want, you have to start putting it out there. You have to start building that narrative. Even if you're doing it on your Instagram, that's a way of putting it out there, right? I even tell models, like, if you want to be a model, then you got to project that on Instagram. Show me that you're a model. Yeah. So if you want to be a talking head, start doing some talking head stuff. I mean, you're already doing it by doing this podcast, right? So I think that you're already in that vein. You're already doing it. You just have to keep putting out there, and you have to keep believing that it's going to happen.
I feel like there's no such thing as luck. I feel like
no such thing as luck.
A man creates his luck.
Yes.
Like that phone call that you got is because you positioned yourself in that space so that when opportunity comes up, you're prepared to jump on it, right? So it's not like you just
early knew what you wanted.
Yeah, so if and I totally agree. Like
but I would watch that show on VH1, and I loved that show. I was a fan of that show.
Yeah.
And I was like, they would have all people from walks of life, but mostly it was like entertainment insiders and publicists. And I was like, I'm a publicist. Like, how do I get to be on this show? I didn't have a connection to the network or to the production team or anybody. Somehow, some way, they called me, and I was like, oh my gosh, this is my dream. Of course, I want to be on this show.
Question. I noticed because of you work with such biggest mega stars. At any time working around these stars, do you feel that you can't necessarily project to your own personality, as opposed, because I know you said you're a creative, but you work in these industries, and obviously out of respect for some of these stars, they may not necessarily want to have another personality.
Yes. It can work against me.
Does it affect
Sometimes
you?
it can work against me.
Because you're so out there.
Yes, agree. And as a publicist, you're supposed to be behind the scenes, but I can't help it. I'm a big deal, and and at the end of the day, you know what you're getting when you come with me. But some people don't want that in their publicist, and they don't come with me. So it has made being an entrepreneur difficult.
Yeah.
But when I'm out with like a client, like if I'm out with you or when I'm out with Vivica, people recognize me, and I love that people recognize me, and they'll ask me to take a picture.
Yeah.
And of course, if I'm by myself or if I'm with just my friends, of course I'm gonna take a picture. That's the most flattering thing, is someone recognizes me and knows my work, because I'm not an actor, I'm not a singer. So for someone to know me on the subway or an event, I'm so flattered. But I will decline a picture when I'm with a Vivica or if you're with my client, because it's not about me shining. And I think that my clients, if they know me, they know that I play my role, I stay in my lane, and I know my position. But if you're just looking at me on the outside and say, oh, well, shit, this nigga's on TV too. Oh, can I say that? I'm sorry.
Well, yeah, I prefer to don't say, but that's fine with it.
Okay, sorry, but people look at me and say,
America's coming.
Yeah, sorry, but people look at me and say, oh, well, you're on television and you're out in events and you're walking red carpets too. I can't work with you. Then that's fine, because they don't know me. They don't know my work ethic. But I don't have the reputation I have. I haven't worked with the people I worked with because I'm out there competing with them. Yeah. I don't want to be famous. I'm just well known because I've done some TV stuff, and people watch TV. But I'm not out here trying to be famous. At the end of the day, I'm just BJ Coleman, and it is what it is.
I mean, like I said, and I've seen stars that have been able to pivot from there. Well, not necessarily. They didn't start off as stars. They started off as, like, let's look at Diddy's assistant for an example. What was his name? Was it Fosbury?
Farnsworth, a good friend of mine, Bentley.
He went from the Mr. Umbrella guy to, I want to say, he's a multimillionaire.
What's he doing now? Because he was big back then.
But again, he dimmed. I don't think Diddy made him dim his light. I don't think he dimmed his light working with Diddy.
No.
And I feel like that's a great thing, to be able to, like,
it's great for the talent to be able to recognize, like, the talent has to be secure.
Yes.
And you have to be able to recognize that, hey, people on my team can shine, and knowing that when they shine, it only makes you shine even brighter. But most people are so caught up in their own shining that they don't want you to shine because you shining too much. So we gotta dim your light. Yeah. But that's why Puffy's so great, right? Because he's a perfect marketer, and he's not gonna allow you.
I feel like we're all equal in this life. No matter if my celebrity could be tomorrow. Yours might be right now, but my celebrity could come the next day, and you would never know if I've dimmed my light.
Yeah. So I always say today's assistant is tomorrow's executive.
There you go.
What's Bentley doing at the moment then? Just out of interest, because I
don't know. This is our BJ Coleman interview.
Well, he's in Atlanta, and he's married with children. He used to be living in LA, but he had a book out, and he's still a distinguished man of style, and he still does a number of TV things. He's great.
I really like his style.
He's a dear friend of mine.
Back in the day.
And what can we expect now that you're? It seems like you're in a new chapter. You're happy. Because I noticed there was a shift during the pandemic. He was speaking to the camera more. He was doing more live audiences, and just like from what I noticed before. What was that?
I'm impressed that you know that.
Come on now, man. I recognize it. I even joined in a few lives as well, because like I noticed this is the first time we were actually getting to hear from BJ Coleman. You were always a bit of a mystery. We see the Vivica A. Fox, and we see your A-star list, star-studded clientele.
You said that.
We don't necessarily hear from BJ Coleman, the man himself. And during the pandemic, that's when I started to see a shift.
Well, I did it during the pandemic because I was, as an entrepreneur, I was concerned with, staying relevant, staying in people's faces, and staying and working. Yeah. I didn't want to lose clients. I didn't want people to know that I was there. I want to know that we were practicing. So that's the great thing about social media, is that we all are able to amplify our own personal messaging to a larger audience, right? Yeah. So I recognize that it behooves me to take advantage of that during the pandemic. Yeah. But now that we're kind of out of the pandemic, you will not see me doing that much stuff. I don't even post like my college friends. I don't post my family. Yeah. For me, social media is work. So you do see a lot of celebrities. You do see a lot of lifestyle, because that's what I'm selling. That's the business that I'm in. I want people to be inspired on where to eat, be inspired on what to watch by coming to my page or who to know. Yeah. But my social media is for promoting my brand, which I recognize is now a part of another brand. But at the end of the day, you know, we're in the social media world, and you know, you're not really doing what you need to be doing as a business person if you're not engaged and taking advantage of it. But you're not going to see me do too many more lives and things like that.
What made you do it during the lockdown, though? I mean, is it to get you where you are now, or?
I'm sorry?
What made you do it during the lockdown? You're not doing it now?
Well, just because, again, I had business to promote. I had clients, you know, to talk about. I wanted to let people know that I was still around and I was, you know, healthy and working. And again, the best thing about being an entrepreneur and having my own was that, you know, of course I could make my own schedule, but then I had my own brand, and it was just about me branding myself and promoting my agency at a time when people were scaling back. You know, public relations and marketing, those are luxury services. It's not like you need those services, you know? And so I had to let people know when they were cutting their budgets, and, you know, that, hey, we're still here, and if you need our services, we can help you switch up your strategy and adjust in this new world that is keeping us apart. You can't go to a red carpet, but that doesn't mean that you can't do a live.
Oh yeah, it was very helpful, and during those times as well. Again, it gave me an opportunity to hear from the likes of, you know, professionals and experts in that field, because again, not everyone was giving out value.
And those are all my clients. Yeah. And so for me, it was also about getting them some publicity and some visibility, you know? So I was doing interviews, like a couple of corporate clients, a doctor, all the people who we were working with, as I was trying to help them build their businesses and keep them relevant and keep them talking. And I was hoping I could leverage that into getting them on a bigger platform to discuss health challenges and the pandemic and adjusting in that new world.
I've got a quick question though.
Go ahead.
We don't have to rush. Are you in a hurry?
No, but it's hour.
No. So I mean, if you're worried about money, we still got time.
Yeah, this is a doctor. He has money.
We're not paid like the orthopedic surgeons in the States, though. I wish. I've got a lot of friends who are surgeons in the US, and every time I visit their homes, I'm like this is just like ridiculously unfair. But anyway, I'll not complain. I wanted to ask you though, BJ, because there's going to be a lot of people watching who are creatives, like myself, also who have day jobs but also have creative pursuits and quote unquote building a brand, and you know, they don't have the money to pay for, you know, PR. So what can the one man band, the individual, what can they do to build themselves up to the level where they could one day maybe
get someone like yourself,
pay for someone like yourself? What can you do in that stage of building?
Well, the first thing they have to do is they have to be able to clearly identify where they're going.
Yeah.
Okay.
What do they want? Where are you trying to be? And what does that entail? You know, because you can be a creative and just be quiet and make $1 million doing anime in a corner, right? But you can also be a creative who wants to be like Darren and want to be a talking head and talk about sports and be in front of the camera. So you have to first identify where is it that you're trying to go. And if that means being a creative also may entail having a public side or a public persona, then you have to think about what are you selling as a creative? What are you giving to the public? Are you giving lifestyle? Are you giving cooking advice? And then how are you going to package that? You know, how are you presenting it? Like I said, we're in a social media age now. Everyone has their own magazine. Instagram is your own magazine. You can change your profile picture once a month. And that's your magazine cover. Whatever you're putting on every day is your content. So you can choose, if you're creative, show the world you're creative. You know, use your Instagram to build followers. Follow other creatives. Slide in some people's DMs. Because obviously, you know, birds of a feather flock together. So the only way you're going to get there is by hanging around with other creatives. And then when you hang out with other creatives, they're going to put you on to something new. Or they're going to put you on to somebody new. Or they're going to put you in a room that you couldn't have gotten in before. So, you know, it's not always what you know; it's a lot of who you know.
Absolutely.
And you know, you'll go with it. What's the saying? You'll go far on your own, but you'll go further as a team. You know, so so I think it's important that, you know, you insulate yourself with people who are like have the same mindset as you, but are also helping you get there. You know, you can't be around people, whether that be your friends. I hate to even say it. Sometimes it's your family, who don't understand your vision, and you have to be around people who are going to bring that vision to reality for you. And then ultimately, everything else will fall into play. How you market yourself, how you brand yourself, those things will fall into play. But again, I think the best way to succeed in anything that you want to be is to surround yourself with like-minded individuals. If you want to sell crack, you're gonna hang out with crack dealers.
Yeah.
Do you understand what I'm saying? If you want to be a doctor, you hung out with some pre-med students.
Yep,
Do you understand what I'm saying? So if you want to be an MMA fighter, you got to hang out with some fighters. You got to fight. You know, and you want to go to the Olympics, you got to hang out with people who are trying to get to the Olympics. They're gonna tell you who the coach is. They're gonna tell you what gym to train at. They're gonna tell you what the best track is or whatever. So again, it's really about who you know and positioning yourself. And the fact of the matter is, they say, oh, you're a recluse and you don't know nobody. Again, we're in 2023. Pick up that phone, get on social media, get on Facebook, get on Instagram, join a group, join a chat, go out, you know, and do it. There's nothing to, you got to make like Nike and just
social media is like the best thing since sliced bread in terms of you being able to create your own narrative and do your own thing.
And the Chinese government will tell you that. Because they all up in your business.
Listen, BJ, it's been an absolute pleasure having you on the couch with us today.
I don't even want to go. I'm like, let's order some pizza. For the pizza
man, listen, we're
love to get the drinks in, and I'm going to stretch out.
You know, I think you guys are gonna have to come to the States, and we should have a bigger session like this, and figure out how we can bring not for likes into a larger conversation. And I think it's so important what you guys are doing as black men, just having these conversations. We as black men need to be talking more about advancing ourselves professionally and mentally and emotionally.
Absolutely.
And it's talks like this that are going to change the world. So I'm honored to be here.
Thank you.
And I would not have wanted to spend a Sunday afternoon in Britain in any other place than with you guys.
Wow. Heard it here first, people.
And before you leave, please, to the audience, is there anything you would like to share with them? How can they find you? What next projects can we expect from BJ Coleman? And just like, when are you back in Britain again? Just talk to the people.
I'm going to be back in Britain soon. Who knows when that will be, but it'll be soon. I love coming here. You can find me on all of my social media handles are BJ Coleman, because my real name starts with an A. I won't tell you about that. That's another story, another time. What's next for me is, again, we are moving black forward at Ebony Magazine. So follow Ebony Magazine, and that's how you can stay in touch with what we have going on and what I have going on. That is my main focus at this time. So I'm continued to help and provide my services there. But it is a new chapter, but I'm not going anywhere, and I am here, and just stay tuned is all I can say.
Yes, look forward to see us.
And then I'll be back, because we're gonna have to talk about your brand and your PR and all that other stuff.
We're gonna reconnect again.
Exactly.
Pressure.
Listen, guys, this has been another fabulous episode on the Not for Lights podcast.
Yes.
I'm Mike. It's been an absolute honor to have as the distinguished guest BJ Coleman join us on the couch today. Until next time, make sure you follow us on social media as well. Not for Likes podcast. On YouTube, it's Not for Likes pod. I'm Mike.
I'm Darren.
Dr. Jude.
Till next time. Peace.
Yay.
Thank you, guys.
Lovely.
Thank you.
Woo!
Yeah,